Hi everyone, it's Louisa with Misty Moon Designs. I'm so glad you stopped by because today I'm going to show you how to create a convertible jewelry set, and we're going to be using the beads and components from the GGC treasure bag. Now if you're not familiar with that bag, I'll leave some information down below along with a link to the website so you can go check it out. And don't forget that I always model my jewelry at the end of my tutorials, so please stick around for that. I'm also leaving some timestamps down below in case you want to skip forward to any portion of the video. As you can see, this convertible jewelry set features a lot of sparkly beads, so if you like sparkle, this is the set for you. But the best thing about this set is that it's convertible and it can be worn a multitude of different ways. The bracelet actually attaches to the necklace for added length, and the necklace itself separates into two, so you get both a longer statement piece and a shorter, daintier one. And I can't wait to show you how to make it, so let's get started. Here are the beads and components for today's necklace. These all came in the GGC treasure bag. The latest one was called Flowers and Shells, and there were two different collections. This one's all from the sophisticated collection. So if you received the other one, you can still make this necklace. Obviously it'll look a little bit different. And if you missed out on the unboxing video, I'll link it down below. But let me go over these sizes with you real quick. These round ones measure 8mm in size, and they're baked glass beads with a golden drizzle effect on the surface. And then we have these large faceted bicones. They measure 10 by 13mm. In this tray we have some flat rondelles. They measure 8 by 5mm. They're electroplated and the color is light gray. These are dyed freshwater shell beads in an oval shape, as you can see, and they measure 9 by 6mm, and the color is slate gray. And in this tray we have some faceted English cut rounds. They measure 6mm in size. They're also electroplated and the color is also gray. But as you can see, both of these are very pale gray because they reflect a lot. Down here we have some Hishi beads. They're also dyed shell beads in the color gray, and they measure 6mm in size. And the reason I have it on the strand is because I find it easier to slide them off in groups and then onto a piece of craft wire or beading wire versus me trying to pick them up one by one, because they're pretty thin, as you can see. I forgot to mention these bead caps. They're actually 14 karat gold plated, which is why they look so nice. They're 4-petal bead caps and they measure 7.5mm across. Down here we have two pendants. They're not 14 karat gold plated, but I love the tone. They're almost the same color as those beautiful bead caps. But anyway, this large one measures 35 by 29 by 4.5mm, and this one measures 20 by 20 by 8.5mm, and it has a faux pearl. And I'm actually going to change the color of that pearl later on. I'll show you how to do that. I really love it the way it is, but I don't have anything here that picks up that color, which is why I'm going to change it. And today's video is actually very, very easy because we're only going to use one technique. Now, if you're new to jewelry making, of course, you might find it a little bit challenging because we're going to do some simple loops. And I've given some tips before in previous videos about how to do them. It was a video I published last month and I can't remember which one. I'll see if I can figure it out and list it down below for those of you who are new and need some tips on how to make simple loops. So let me go ahead and move some of these trays for the time being. Sometimes if I have too much here, my camera doesn't focus. We're going to work with these beads first. And I'm going to be using some 22 gauge wire. Well, I don't know what happened, but my phone stopped focusing for some reason. So I had to re-record this part. But anyway, like I said, we're going to work on these beads first. And I'm going to be using some 22 gauge wire. And the color is hematite. And as you can see, it's a very warm kind of a hematite color. I'm not sure if it's because of the brand. The brand is by Beadsmith. And it's the Wire Elements craft wire. Some other hematite colors are more on the cool side, but I like this brand because, as you can see, it's very bronzy looking. It's very warm. It's almost the same color as the clasps I'm going to be using. And by the way, I am going to get my nails trimmed, guys, okay? I know some of you are bothered by that. I just haven't had time to go to the salon, but I'm going to try to do it this Saturday. So anyway, I've cut myself a piece of wire. It measures about 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches, something like that, using my flat nose pliers, and these are actually called tapered flat nose pliers because of the tip. I'm going to grab the wire at the top like this, about 3/8 of an inch down, bend it. Using my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the end so that it's flush with my barrels, and I'm going to form a loop. You want to make sure your loop is closed and centered. And now I'm going to slide off, I think maybe 5. Some of them are thicker than others, and I see some thin ones here, so maybe 6. I don't know. I'm just going by the length. And now I'm going to slide them directly onto my wire. Like that. And now I'm going to grab the wire right by the bead like this, bend it, cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch, grab the end, and form another loop. Let me line up my loops. So there's my first beaded component. And it looks a little wonky because some of those beads are irregular, but that's okay. As you saw, it was much easier to offload directly from the strand by grabbing them in multiples than to try to pick them up one by one. So now I'm going to show you that again, but I'm going to use a different bead. I'm going to use one of these round ones, and all of these round ones are going to have bead caps. I'm not putting bead caps on any of the other ones because I just want a little pop of gold here and there. And by the way, that's the reason I'm using hematite colored wire instead of gold. I didn't want a whole lot of gold on this necklace. So once again, I'm going to grab the wire at the top at 3/8 of an inch down, bend it, grab the end, form a loop, slide on a bead cap, and now the bead and the other bead cap. Make sure everything's snug. Grab the wire at the top like this, bend it, cut off the excess, leaving 3/8 of an inch, grab the end and form another loop. Let me line up my loops. And that's pretty much it. That's how I'm going to do all of them. So now we have 2 beaded components. And let me show you what I had in mind. Let me bring out the other beads. These are for the bottom part of the necklace. We're going to use these as well. So let me show you how I came up with my design. Whenever you have several types of beads, what you normally do is to figure out which beads you're going to use more often in a repetitive pattern. And since I had a lot of these crystals, these are the ones that are going to be used the most. So obviously these other ones are going to be used less frequently. And I usually start by laying out the ones that repeat more often. So let me go ahead and lay down some of these. And then once you do that, you lay down the other ones. So let's just go ahead and start with this one. And then maybe this gray one. And now one of these bicones, and now one of these, like that. So the next one will have to be one of these. So as you can see, I have crystals in between, and then I have these fancy beads. But the other thing that I'm doing is I'm alternating colors. So this one's black, this one's gray, black, gray, black. And that's pretty much how I lay out my bead patterns. I use this method all the time. Of course, ultimately, it's your design, so you can do what you want. But you also have to take into account how many of each type of bead you have. So I knew I wanted to use these bicones, but since I didn't have that many, I had to come up with an alternate method. Of course, instead of the bicones, you could always use just the round beads with the bead caps, and that would look nice as well. You'd have more gold. But anyway, guys, be creative and do what you feel looks good for yourself. And for the top part of the necklace, I'm going to do a similar arrangement, but instead of using these large crystals, I'm going to use these here. These are the smaller ones. So let's go ahead and lay down some of these. And then these. And I'm only going to use these. I'm not going to use any black ones. And that's basically how it's going to look. Nothing complicated. So anyway, guys, as you can see, we're going to end up with tons of beaded components. So anyway, even though this tutorial is actually very easy, there's a lot of different parts to it. So let me go ahead and create my beaded components. And then when I come back, I'll show you how to connect them and add the pendant to the bottom. So I'll see you in a few moments. As you can see, I created all my beaded components and I've connected most of them to save time, but I am going to show you how to connect these bottom ones. The 2 top ones measure 7 3/4 inches Initially, I was going to make them 7 inches, but I decided to make them a little bit longer. And I made these 2 longer as well. These measure 9 3/4 inches. And this piece measures 3 inches. By the time we attach the magnetic clasps, not only will you have the extended piece, but you'll also be able to connect it to the other one to make a bracelet. And that's what's so cool about this design. And I know most of you know how to connect beaded components, but I'm going to go ahead and show you so the people that are new to this can see how it's done. It's very simple. I'm simply going to open up one of these loops, slide the next component into it, close it up, and now I'm going to open up this one and slide the next one in and close it up. I actually had 1 extra beaded component and I only needed 6, so I had to remove this one. But anyway, the next step is to connect the pendants. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to paint this little pearl so it coordinates better. So let me get the materials for that. Here's the shell component. As you can see, I have a piece of paper underneath to protect my mat. And I'm going to use nail polish to color that pearl. This nail polish is called mirror nail polish. You can also search for chrome nail polish, and it's in a silver color. There's all kinds of brands on Amazon. You shouldn't have any trouble finding it. Ideally, I would have preferred like a dark gray smoky color, but that's the only nail polish I had with that metallic effect. Now, if you're going to do this, you should really find a way to protect the metal part of the component. And I have this little template that I actually made myself. I've used it before, as you can see. And on the back is some double-sided Scotch tape. So I'm just going to put it underneath like this. Let me just pick it up and do it this way. It is a little tricky. And now let me open up my nail polish. And I'm simply going to paint it on like this. Very, very easy. And I'm going to do the same thing to this side, the bottom and the top of the pearl. Obviously, I need to let that dry because if I try to pull the paper out, it's going to smear the nail polish and I don't want to do that. But that's basically how I'm going to do it. And I'm actually going to do 2 coats to make sure I cover the entire thing. So let me do that off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, here it is all painted up and I think it looks really nice. I know it's difficult to tell, but let me see if I can pop up a picture so you can see the difference. I actually have 2 more of these components. Like I said, I would have preferred a dark gray smoky color, but this one's good enough. And since I have it here, I might as well attach the strands. And this is super easy. I'm going to use a couple of jump rings. These are 5mm in size. Let me go ahead and open up one of them. Slide the pendant into it. And now this strand. Like that. Close it up. And now let me open up this jump ring. This one actually doesn't look very good. Let me get a different one. Here's another one. The gap on the other one seemed a little wide for some reason. Make sure it's closed well. Doesn't that look adorable? I really like it. The gray on the pearl picks up the gray on the crystals. And by the way, I think I forgot to mention that I added these gold faceted beads. They're 4mm in size and they're 14 karat gold plated. I totally forgot about that. But as I was linking all the beads together, I realized I needed something gold to pick up the gold of the pendant. So anyway, I apologize for that. And obviously these did not come in the GGC treasure bag. I think I got them on Etsy a while ago. And since I have this necklace here, I might as well add the clasp. Here it is. It's a magnetic clasp and it's pretty strong. Let me turn it on its side because it's easier for me to pick it up. So I'm just going to open up this loop slide my clasp into it because it already has a little jump ring attached, as you can see. And now let me attach this one. So this necklace is finished. So now let me get the longer necklace. Before I bring out the strands, we're going to work on this pendant. Now initially I was going to use it like this, with this being the front, but then I thought about it a little bit and I felt like I needed to use this other side with some dangles hanging down. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a few of these beads. These are called triangle nugget beads. They measure 4 by 4 by 4 millimeters. And I think I'm going to use 3 of them, and they're black and they're opaque, as you can see. I'm also going to use one of these crystals. These are the small 6 millimeter faceted English cut crystals. And I'm also going to use some chain to hang them on. This is 18 karat, and I think these links measure 2 by 3 millimeters, or maybe 2 by 2.5 millimeters. I'm not going to take it off the spool just yet. Here's my English cut crystal. Using my round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the pin like this, bend it, reposition my pliers, wrap the tail around the nose of the pliers, flip the pliers around, continue to wrap to the back. Let me open up this loop just a little bit, slide it into the first link of this chain, like this. I'm going to grab the loop with these pliers. These have very skinny tips, which is why I like using them. They're actually crimping pliers. And now using these pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and do a few wraps. You can do as many wraps as you want to. I think I'll just do 2. And now let me cut off the excess pin. Tuck in the little end. And now I'm going to snip off about 1 inch worth of chain. This chain is actually pretty tough, which is good. There we go. And I'm going to do that with the other 3 beads. Now I've already done it ahead of time. And the reason I did it ahead of time is because it takes quite a while to figure out how long you want each dangle to be. Obviously, you're not going to use this length, but I recommend that you cut yourself 1-inch pieces because it's better to have more than less. And then you can figure out how many links to remove from each one. So basically, you would just get your pendant and your dangle and hold it like this. And then you can estimate how many links you need to remove. It's very time consuming, guys, I'm not going to lie. So here are my 4 dangles, and I actually only used 2 of the large crystals and 2 of the little ones. Initially I was going to do 3 of the little ones, but I guess I had forgotten that I changed my mind and I decided on 2 of each. But you can do whichever configuration you want, obviously. And basically you want a kind of a staggered effect. You don't want them hanging at the same level, obviously. So here are my strands. I have 2 more jump rings. They're the same size I used on the other ones, 5 millimeters. Let me go ahead and open up one of them. Hopefully my camera's focusing, because like I said before, when I have too much down here, it doesn't focus. So if it's not focusing, I apologize, but there's not much I can do about it. And now let me open up this one. Slide my strand into it. And now the pendant. And now I'm going to open up the jump ring of this component. Let me see how I want it to hang. Not that it really matters because they're all kind of cascading down. And I'm going to slide this jump ring inside both of these, like that. Make sure that jump ring is really closed, because I definitely don't want a dangle sliding out of the gap, if there's a gap. Doesn't that look adorable? I love it. And now we need to attach the clasp. Here it is. I think it's a very attractive and elegant looking necklace. Here are my extender segments. I've already attached a clasp, as you can see. And these measure 3.5 inches, including the clasp. The clasp actually adds 1/2 inch. So this necklace is actually 20 inches long now that we've added the clasp. And now we're going to turn it into a 27-inch necklace. Let me show you. Very, very simple. It's as easy as that. So now you have a choice. And of course, if you wanted a bracelet, you would simply connect these together like this. Let me put it on. How adorable is that? I love it. And then of course you could make this one even longer by attaching this necklace. Of course, this would be in the back of the neck, which is fine. Another thing you could do is to just layer them. Let me show you. So here's another configuration, and then you actually have another option. You could add these extenders to drop this even lower. So the bottom necklace would hang much lower than the top one. But I'm not going to do that right now, because I am going to model everything for you at the end of this video. But before I do that, we're going to make some earrings. So let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for the earrings. As you can see, both pearls are painted, and I've already made the beaded component. But this time, instead of having just the bicone, I added the 4mm faceted bead on top to bring up some of the gold so that it would coordinate a little bit better with the earring. You could just do the bicone with the shell component and that would be fine as well. So the only thing I need to do is to connect everything, but I do need to change the orientation of these two loops because they need to be perpendicular to each other. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. I'm going to grab both loops like this and turn them just like that. And now let me go ahead and open up this bottom loop. Slide my component into it and close it. And now I'm going to open up this top loop. Slide the ear wire hook into it. And I want to make sure that I do it correctly because I want the pearl to face the front like this. I think this is correct. Let me close it. So there we go. Very, very simple, but very elegant as well. So now I'm going to bring out the whole ensemble and arrange it on my table so you can see how everything coordinates. Well, here's the whole ensemble, 2 beautiful necklaces that you can connect with the extender segments, or you can wear them individually or layered like this. And then you have the bracelet option and a very cute pair of earrings. Another option that I forgot to mention, you can actually add the extender segments to this necklace to make that one longer if you wanted to. But I actually didn't do that initially because these beads are a little bit larger than what's on this necklace. That's why I didn't do it. But since they'll be at the back of the neck, you actually wouldn't notice it unless you have short hair. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, I'm going to go ahead and model all of these pieces for you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.